September 15th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Happy to be joined this morning by the inimitable Duane Long from the city of Columbus. Duane, how are you feeling this fine morning?
Oh, man, enjoying a gorgeous, sunny morning. The last few days, Dan, before I got a feeling we're going to have an early fall. But that means football, so it ain't all bad.
It does. Yeah, I will say even the Gem City looks like we're going to have a beautiful day today. That always comes at a cost. Okay, we put a thread up on the message board recently so the people could speak to Duane or they could ask him questions. So I've got a list here of all the questions you guys submitted, and we're just going to take them. I've kind of grouped them off by section here. Question number 1 for Duane Long. Your vision of the Hawaii performance, unprepared or sluggish?
Well, I think you can look at it as both. The short week is a problem. If you played, you know that there's a certain pattern that you set into as the season goes. You know, you do certain things on certain days. That wasn't there. They didn't have the complete preparation. I absolutely believe that Virginia Tech was such a focus. When you heard some of the things that were coming out, this team wanted Virginia Tech. And then they got Virginia Tech, and then they got a short week. And I think there was just they weren't ready, but there was a hangover too. You know, the preparation wasn't there, and it was a hangover. So I think it was both. I'm not real worried about this. I mean, you know, every team has a game in the season that they wish they could play over again, and hopefully this is the one, 38-0 win, where we hold a team that's thrown for 100 yards in 213 straight games. We break that streak and shut them out. That's a pretty good off week. So let's think that this is going to be the off week that we have this year. I think we'll learn from it and realize you got to be focused. You got to be ready all the time, every day, not just every game, every day in practice. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was at the game. They just didn't have the bounce in their step. A lot of guys didn't. I want to give credit to the one guy in the first half who I thought was flying all over the field. That's Gary and Conley. But I would agree. I'm not worried about it. I was even less worried about it when I saw all the action across college football after the day. If you struggle and win 38-0, I'll take that. A lot of the questions we've gotten are about the offense. So let's start at the top. Do you think there is a Tim Beck effect yet, positive or negative, or is it too early to determine?
I think it's too early to determine, but I would lean toward everything's positive. We're forgetting what happened less than 2 weeks ago at a much tougher venue against a much tougher team. We ran up 42 points on a much better defense. We're forgetting that. And we did have a pretty forgettable second quarter, but it was still, I'm not worried about this. It's just we're making too much of this one little bit of a down showing, a 38-0 win. So I think that
hilarious though.
Yeah. I don't think there's. What I would tell fans to look at is what we're actually doing on the field. We're not doing much different. I mean, I would like to see a little bit more running straight up the gut. That's where we're at our best. That's where our, asking our guards. You shouldn't ask guards to do too much, Dan. It's just that simple. You don't want guards to do too much, but go forward and knock people down. So, Billy Price is struggling a little bit, and I think that's impacted Bourne. He's a center. He's a smaller guy. He needs his bigs on either side of him to help him, and Price is just not helping him right now. But I'm saying that we're going through some early season. We had a little bit of a down game. Let's not get too carried away. Let's not turn it into a thing. It's not a thing yet. If we do this once or twice more, then it's a thing. Right now, it's not a thing.
Agreed. Not a thing. And Duane did a great job there. He actually answered the next question, which was about Jacoby Bourne and Billy Price and whether or not Price's struggles are affecting Bourne? Because I think the answer is yes. There's no question, having watched Billy the last few games, he struggles with your faster, undersized, quickness-based defensive lineman. What's good for him is I don't think he's going to have to worry about this on Sundays when he plays in the pros. I think he's perfectly suited to be an NFL guard. But the little whippersnapper types like the Matty, the 225-pound defensive end at Virginia Tech, and those guys, when they slotted him inside and rushed for the smaller guys, he struggled. I have no doubt that they'll get that cleaned up. There's just too much veteran experience on the offensive line. Okay, here is probably the most popular question, topic, source of angst. Do you feel like they are shoehorning Braxton into the offense? And by that I mean forcing it too much. That's not my question. That is the question of the fans.
No, I don't think at all. I think he was going to be part of the offense. This guy is a great. Look at what he did. I mean, after the first game, we're talking about him as a possible Heisman candidate. Everyone needs to chill out. No, it's absolutely not. I like that part of it. What I don't like is let's stick with one quarterback. If you want to direct snap it to him once or twice a game, okay. I think they went a little too far with that. I think they went too far with the quarterback situation in general Saturday. We didn't know what was going on out there. You didn't know, the one I remember, there were two plays I mentioned in my game review. How does Braxton Miller, the third, people would argue he's a good enough passer. Why is your number 3 passer in the game at quarterback on 3rd and 21? The second thing was Taylor Decker down the field. This is a 3-year starter, a senior, a guy who's probably going to be a first-round NFL draft choice. What's he doing down the field on a play that we had a big play on? He didn't know who was in there. Who's got the ball? What's going on? Stop this now. Stop this now. Stop trying to, if you want to say shoehorn, it's not Braxton Miller, it's quarterback. They're trying to shoehorn too many people in at quarterback, trying to make too many people happy. Enough. It's going to hurt us down the line. It's going to hurt us down the line. We need to do something about it now. Just make our commitment like we did against Virginia Tech. Put Cardell Jones in there. If you want to put Barrett in there, do that. But go with one guy. I have never seen a 2-quarterback system work, and I'm never going to believe in it. And we had a 3-quarterback system last Saturday, and you could see it. It was not a good thing. Go with your guy. Braxton Miller is a flanker, slot receiver, wing back, and occasionally he's going to take a snap or two. That should be the end of it. Enough with this. That's where it is, shoehorning at quarterback. That's where the problem is.
I'm not saying I disagree, but I will say I do not think it's going to change anytime soon, unless one of them being Cardale or JT, plays so poorly that the other one is that it just becomes obvious. I was at the game. I've said that. After the drive that Cardale struggled, the first thing I did was stand up and look down where I was sitting. I could do this. I said, here comes the helmet, and you could see JT get right up. So there's a vibe in there. If you can predict when the backup quarterback's going in, to me that usually means there's a vibe that he's going to be coming in routinely. I just don't think the margin for error is going to be great enough that it's going to bother Urban down the road. I think he thinks he can fix that going forward, but we will see. A couple questions on this as well. The wide receiver depth chart. If you were in charge of the wide receiver depth chart, because it's clear that they mix it up a lot, give me your rotation if you were running Zach Smith's Zone 6 crew.
Well, for one, Michael Thomas would never leave the field. Michael Thomas is a split end. If you want to throw Gibson in there every now and then with Noah Brown down, I would roll with that. As the slot receiver would be, that's where I would have Marshall in there. There's no doubt about it. I love him. I love what he can do with the ball. He's a bigger kid, and usually your flanker's not a bigger kid. I would have him in there, and I would have Miller as my wing back. Those would be my 3 guys that I would start with. I like what we've seen of Dixon so far. He would get plenty of playing time. I don't know about Corey Smith. I don't know. Here's the thing. This is not the first incident with this guy. I don't know if we can depend on him I just don't like the way things are lining up. I would look more to one of the younger guys. Campbell, I've always thought of him as a slot receiver because of the speed factor, but he's a big kid. He's 6'1", 6'2", and that's getting into split end size. You see a lot of split ends in that size range, and he's a long kid. I want to see, that speed element that he brings makes that split end spot. When you're talking about the elite split ends, like we saw last night with Jones, the receiver from Atlanta, Julio Jones, he's 6'4", but he's also probably the fastest guy on the field. That's what makes those guys unique. That's what makes them guys that go in the top 5 in the draft. And you see that, Campbell's not 6'4", but he is big enough to be a split end, and he's got that speed element that Thomas doesn't. So I'd want to get him in there. I'd line him up number 2 behind Thomas. At the inside receivers are slots, wingbacks, flankers. At the other spot behind Marshall, I would look at Dixon. Dixon is just a guy who makes plays. He always reminded me of Santonio Holmes coming out of high school. And then you would go McLaren would be another guy I'd like to see more of. Wilson, he would be the backup to Miller in the slot.
No Curtis Samuel?
I still got him on my depth chart. I was looking at my depth chart at running back. I would have him and Miller running mostly, just both of them. Put both of them on the field.
Yep.
If you really want to change things, you Marshall is not the fastest guy. He's fast enough. You put both Miller and Samuel on the field. Oh my goodness, you got a lot of speed out there. And even if you want to really scare people, throw Campbell out at wide receiver with those 3 and just see what happens. Make them chase all 3 of them. See if they can catch them, and see what the defense adjusts to having this different speed level. Maybe we have not seen Campbell show hands yet. Dropped a couple of balls. Dropped a sure touchdown in the Virginia Tech game. Thomas, you have that skill level. He's going to go up and make the play on the ball. Campbell, he's just, when he walks off the field after he runs a 9, that the defense coordinator is going to be saying, wait a minute, when that guy's going to the field, we got to make sure we got a safety over top. We cannot let him run by us. Maybe he'll drop it, maybe he won't. We can't take a chance. We can't worry about what he does. We got to make sure he doesn't get behind us. So, we've got, the receiver core is just so thick. It's unbelievable. And then you have Gibson, who we haven't really played yet. So, it's just pick your poison. There's so many guys, and that doesn't include Smith, who has been a real solid player for us, best blocking receiver we've had here, and I don't know how long. But he just, I just don't want to depend on a guy who's going to go out and get himself suspended like that, and it's happened with him before. So, I go with the younger guys. I go with Thomas. You want to get Campbell on the field. I want to get Gibson in there. And then you got so many inside receivers. It's with Marshall and Samuel. I don't know how I keep him off the field. Think about what he's done so far when they've actually thrown him the ball. You got Marshall, you got Miller, you got Elliott. I think Dixon is an impact player. You got to have those guys on the field and try to get a good mix, get them in and get them all in and out of the lineup so you got a fresh guy in there. You've got the opportunity with this kind of receiver depth. So, I'm real excited about what we have here. And, it's really a matter of pick your poison, keep the guys happy, keep enough of the guys in there, rotating them in and out, and getting plenty of playing time. And here's the advantage beyond keeping your players happy. Fresh players against worn-out defensive players, that's a huge advantage. That half step that a receiver had on a defensive back in the first quarter, it's a full step in the fourth quarter when you've got fresh guys running in and out of there. So we need to take advantage of this receiver depth that we have.
No question. I would say this about Paris Campbell. If people are wondering why he's still starting and he hasn't had that many receptions, they should watch special teams. He is as good of a gunner as I have seen here. He is the first guy down there all the time. He is he does have elite, almost, long term, he has Olympic-type speed given his length. And people should know this, and who don't, and probably still remember, he's a really young dude. I don't think Paris Campbell's, if he's 18, he's just 18. He's a young.
I believe he just turned 18. Turned 18.
So that's a long-term play there. I would not be surprised if 2 or 3 years from now he's one of the best players in the country. I think from a physical perspective and the way he's going to grow up in this culture, I think Urban sees that and they realize that. I would also say that they're playing so many guys early on, it makes sense that there will be some adjustment time. You've got a lot of guys playing who haven't played as much as they have in the past. The Evan Spencers of the world were really good. And I also think that's the reason the perimeter blocking hasn't been as good. This Michael Thomas, and when you have Michael Thomas and Evan Spencer and the like out there blocking, I think it makes it a lot easier. And some of these guys are clearly getting adjusted to it. I even heard Urban call out Jalen Marshall for missing a block on that second down play to Ezekiel Elliott's sweep after Darren Lee's sack down in the deep in Hawaii territory. So one to watch, and I would say that's an embarrassment of riches, and it's a good problem to have. Let's move on to a recruiting question to finish this off. It's pretty clear the number one guy on Ohio State's board right now is Antwuan Jackson, the defensive tackle from Georgia. Given what you've seen of Jackson, if he does pick Ohio State, all indications are it's Ohio State versus Auburn here down the stretch. If he does pick Ohio State, also should mention Antwuan was here for the Hawaii game. Again, if he does pick Ohio State, what would Ohio State be getting in Antwuan Jackson, in your opinion?
One of the real unique defensive tackles, one of the special guys. This is a special class. It's the class I will measure all defensive tackles by in the future. Antwuan Jackson, he's top 7, top 8. Any other year, he's top 3. He could be number 1. The guy just dominates the line of scrimmage. If he was a little bigger, I think he'd be a kid that we're talking about even as a number 1 in this class because he's so productive. What I love about him, the explosive. He comes off the ball, bang. He's making impact. So the offensive line is not going to be resetting the line of scrimmage on him. He's the one that's going to be penetrating, making things happen, uses his hands real well, gets rid of blockers really well, loves intensity, his motor. There's just not a lot. The one thing that I would say is any kind of a negative, he's not a true, the 6'4", 6'5", 300-pound guy. He's probably a 280-pound guy, 6'3", maybe a little bit bigger than that. Size would be the only thing, but I'm not really worried about that. I think we'll get him in. Mick will get him straightened around so he's got a great muscle-to-fat ratio, and the weight would just be extra. I really love this kid. He would be huge. We've got some great kids in this class, but I would have to say he's the most important recruit left on the board. Now, when we got when we added Barrow, that really helped. And then we see Barrow play so well early on. So I wanted a pair of great tackles this year. It looks like we could be pulling it off here if we get Jackson. We already got one. Getting Jackson would be massive because it's the one need. It's not just that Washington's leaving. Shutt's leaving too. He's been awfully solid this year. Wasn't expecting that. Hale's a senior. So and Hill's a junior. So we need to get tackles in here, guys that can play right away, guys who can play early and make an impact. Because that's the only thing keeping this from being you got offensive line too, but having those tackles is going to solidify that defensive line in a way. I know Bosa's leaving, but we got defensive ends here. Not really worried about that. Getting tackles that can at least hold the point of attack, not getting moved off the line of scrimmage. If they're not penetrating, making big plays, well, okay. We've got to get some guys in there that can hold the point and not get pushed around.
No question. Jackson's an impressive dude, and it would also just be awesome to pull another stud out of Georgia. I'd love to see that trend continue. For those who don't know, Georgia is about the most productive state per capita in the world right now for football players. So we appreciate Duane for spending some time with us this morning. We love having the chance to answer your questions. Keep them coming on there. If you want to create a thread on this, we'll answer them every week. Duane, we appreciate it, buddy. Have a great one.
All right. We'll talk to you.